Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to IndianFolk.com. My name is Sriti Garg, and today we have with us the authors of the book Top 7 An Economic History of Growth and Recessions with a proffer for post COVID 19 programs. I warmly welcome Dr. Joshi KJ, Mr. Chandrasekhar Kattipalli, and Ms. Shireen Bangera. It gives us all immense pleasure to announce to you all the official online book release of our book Top 7. Around the same time last year, life was very different for all of us. No one had imagined an endemic which started in China would become a pandemic in March. Even we did not imagine that a research paper would turn out into a book of this stature. In fact, it reminds me of what Richard Branson once said. He said that if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you do not know how to do it, you accept it and you learn it later. And I think that was on my mind when Mr. Chandrasekhar gave me this opportunity with my HOD and my classmate. It was a learning experience for me. I had a lot of takeaways by reading what the economies had to go through in the past 250 years of their economic history and how they are battling the challenges which lie in front of us today. Therefore, first of all, I would like to extend my very heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Chandrasekhar Kattipalli, Dr. Joshi KJ, and my friend and batchmate, Ms. Shireen Bangera. The kind of challenges which we are facing right now because of COVID 19, they're unprecedented. There's no doubt about it. We have now moved from a bipolar world to a multipolar one. Well, this is not the first time that the economic power game is undergoing such a huge change. If you look at it, the current superpowers, China and USA, they were nowhere there in the list of top economies until the 1950s. In fact, China is a recent entry in the list. Even if we go a little deeper, we see that Germany was one of the last European countries to even enter into the game of colonization. It was only until 1900s that Germany could overtake UK in its steel production. Even though there's no doubt that the process of industrialization was heralded in the United Kingdom, of course, aided by the colonization, it spread its roots to other European countries and eventually to even United States of America. Then we see a huge power shift happening post World War II, where we see Soviet Union and United States struggling to keep up with the top position. And eventually we see the winner. But with the latest trade war and the struggle between USA and China, it is yet to be seen who eventually wins. Well, if we go by the recent numbers and the data, it reflects a very grim situation for the United States of America. The economy was going through their longest ever growth period of almost 30 years until February 2020. But with COVID 19, USA kind of stands ashamed in front of other developing countries which are handling COVID 19 much better. Even till today, USA has the highest number of COVID cases in the world. It brings us to think, what exactly does development mean to developed world and to the developing? We see African nations which are performing far better in the recent challenges, whereas we see countries like Germany, France, and US, and even UK going after shutdown, lockdown after lockdown, because of the menace that COVID 19 has created. It has definitely affected global supply chains. But the clear winner over here is China. In the book, we give a very in-depth look at all these challenges which are presented right now. And we also look back at the roots, because I firmly believe that if we need to correct our mistakes, we definitely need to go back to our history. And in light of this, I would like to ask Dr. Joshi KJ, what kind of global economic system does he envision in the coming 10 years, given that the world is becoming more protectionist? It is no more a more cohesive, integrated economy, and even integration the whole idea of global village is now posing a lot of threats, because we all know it that it is because of the interconnectedness that this endemic became a pandemic. So, Dr. Joshi KJ, what do you think?
Thank you, Ms. Dhruti, for your warm welcome and impressive words. Instead of answering to your questions directly, I would like to talk about, three key aspects, three important aspects that kept me going and that kept me remain, fascinated about writing this book. First of all, analyzing the present situation related to growth, recessions, then the historical background of economies, along with the unprecedented current scenario, COVID-19 global pandemic. That's anyway a great topic to deal with. Um, this book has the shades of economic history of growth, and also we have political economy, the shades of political economy, then the history of recessions, along with how these economies had handled recessionary and expansionary phases in their, in the past time periods through various policy measures. Then also we have a lot of glimpses over how these economies had been taken to their current levels of growth and existence. So we touch upon the technological progress, the resource utilization, then the macroeconomic policies related to money supply. Then also we have fiscal measures taken by the government. Then also the short-term and long-term equilibrium situations of the economies and how policymakers envisioned the short-term and long-term growth, as well as the fluctuations in economic activities at various time points. So I would say this gives us a kind of comprehensive package related to how policymakers and economists perceived uh, their economies growing or their economies moving to the next phases in the past. So I would say this is one interesting aspect, analyzing the past situations in relation to growth and recessions. On the other side, we make a lot of predictions related to what will be the kind of roadmap ahead. So in that endeavor, we actually look at the policy framework in front of the policymakers and economists and how they evolve, how they perceive the policies, how they implement the policies at different levels in different historical points, at the same time at different time points in the present as well. If I'm talking about one instance which we explain in the book in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic management in all these 7 economies, it's very, very interesting to see that we analyze the COVID-19 management in the context of all these 7 economies. And we specifically focus on Indian and the US policies and how these policymakers they attempted to control or contain the COVID-19 situation. And we also suggest a kind of policy framework where we bring that linkage effect between the short-term, intermediate term, and long-term, policy measures. So it's something very, very fascinating to look at. Even the policymakers would be really interested in looking at the kind of comparisons we have drawn, and also the kind of implications we have brought in through the linkage effect I was referring to. So the third interesting aspect to me would be, um, uh, the changing phase, the fast evolving phase of the world. If you look at the current world scenario, especially from the socio-economic political front, you see that the world is moving very fast. And as you rightly mentioned, you can see how the US and China are positioned and how the relative positions are getting changed, getting adjusted. So one of the interesting things I look at, or as authors, as co-authors, we all attempted to look at would be what would be the kind of changing equations in the world in the years to come. If I'm drawing 2 examples here, we say that the US economy contributes around one quarter of the total global income, and China is catching up very fast. Many policymakers and economists they believe that China would soon be overtaking the American economy because it has already grown into a massive scale of 16% of global income. But on the other side, yeah, in our initial discussions also, you all would be remembering how we were comparing among all the 7 economies. All these economies are endowed with, such a strong resource base. So we may not be in a position to make predictions on the basis of the current growth. We can't say whether China would be overtaking American economy very soon or some other economies. Now we can see Indian economy has become the 5th largest economy in the world. So it's slightly unpredictable, but at the same time, that has given enormous opportunities for all these leading economies. I would say it would be anything to some extent. It's uncertain, but at the same time, all these economies are bestowed with abundant resources, strong capacity with them, and definitely they have great opportunities ahead. So I think the way ahead for all these economies would be in terms of how effectively, how efficiently they would be utilizing the resource base, how fast they could enhance the productivity levels, what level of importance is assigned to the technological progress, R&D, then innovations. All these matter so much. So I think at this point, I leave all the questions you raised to the viewers and readers, and definitely they can look into our book. I think this is going to be a fascinating read for all the academic community in front of us. So I pass it to Ms. Shireen. My question to you would be the kind of perspectives you have, especially in relation to the growth and the potential left with all these economies, along with the experience you have in writing this book. Over to you, Ms. Shireen.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I think if I were to elaborate on my experience with this book, I think maybe Dhriti and I had a parallel experience where we quite quickly turned our college friendship into a work sort of camaraderie too fast, maybe over this lockdown, but all for good reason. And yeah, as far as my experience goes, as both as a reader and a writer of this book, since I've had the privilege to be both, it's been a great course of learning and unlearning, I would say, of what we all know of all of these countries. And I think now that it's come out, what I think is what makes it particularly special and unique is, in fact, probably what we perceived as a challenge in the start when we started our discussions, when we were focusing on the historical aspect. So I think the unique aspect is that we have all tackled history from a different point of view. So we have all seen it through a different lens. And I think that really comes out through the course of the different writing styles in the book. We all have a different tone to it. We have even, the kind of things that each of the authors has chosen to include and not include, highlight, etc. I think really comes out in the writing of this book as I have read it. And which is also why I think the historical part, I kind of have a soft corner for it, and I would add, if I say, it's my favorite part in the book. And I think this kind of mix of perspectives has come out really well. For instance, if you look at Germany and Japan, these are the two countries that we took up in our book, and both Dhriti and I, began writing it around the same time as well. Where a lot of changes were happening in both these countries. And from our preliminary understanding, we all know that these two countries are strikingly similar. But as you see it come out in this book, we have both tackled it from a different point of view. And you actually see the different cultural contexts in which these, these two economies have grown. For instance, they do have a similar backing in terms of their war histories, in terms of their economic and political upheavals. The way things have gone about for them and how they have particularly handled COVID have been very different. And I think that also comes out very well in the book. And as far as the second section of the book, that is the policy section, I think this was, to me at least, pretty challenging as a researcher, where when we started it out in 2020, it was kind of this overwhelming experience of both limited and a vast amount of information. And we kind of had to pick what exactly would make sense in terms of the policy recommendations. And this information was also changing every day, which is why this particular section also, I think, called for many phone call exchanges among all of us, and took up quite some time and quite a lot of discussions. But we have somehow, culminated it into a cohesive, comprehensive set of policies, which is a great starting point for many countries, many of the countries that we have discussed in this book. So yeah, that was pretty much my experience writing this book, and I think I could share. I could now, take the. We can move this forward by asking Mr. Chandrasekhar to share his experience and his thoughts on these 7 countries.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Shireen. Hello, everybody. I'm Chandrasekhar Kadipale, and I'm one of the authors of the book Top 7. I think I'm the only one from the non-economic stream to contribute to the book. I thank all my 3 co-authors, Dr. Joshi, Ms. Shireen, and Mr. Ruthi, for being patient with me as I was getting adjusted to the several topics in the economics. So my interest in this book writing began as I was reading more about the US history and process. I learned more about the US economy as well. And after 4 of us agreed to write the book, I had also researched more about the other economies, particularly France and UK, besides the Indian economy. And I think the book would be a good product for both the casual readers, the young students, researchers, in the humanities stream. But yeah, just talking about these economies in general, obviously, there have been a change in rankings, like, who is the top and who is number 2, number 3, number 4, the ranking for the last 100 years, right? I mean, at the very end of the 19th century, it was the UK, and then, sometime during the early part of the 20th century, I think, US took the lead. And then UK came down to like number 2 or number 3, and later number 4 at some point. And then between Germany and UK, the ranks have been changing quite a bit, right? But yeah, now I think, we have India like, within a top 5. So there's a lot of talk about, the trade wars between, US and China, and very soon, there's a likelihood of China taking over US, which may happen or may not happen. It all depends on, the political and economic situations, particularly, the political situation in China as well, About 3 decades ago, there was this talk about the Soviet Union being number 2 economy for quite long, but then the country disintegrated, and then now it's Russia is like number 9 or number 10, right? So a lot of these predictions are very much dependent upon the political certainties or uncertainties, how you put it, over the next 2 or 3 decades. But I think from a very, very long-term standpoint, there is a strong likelihood that US, India, and China would be among top 3 in some way. I mean, if you look at the gap between Germany and Germany and India and UK, right? I think that the gap has been sort of narrowing for the last 2 decades, and I think most likely in India will get to number 3 at some point in time. But with amongst India, China, and US, the rankings, I guess it all depends on how the economies and how the nations evolve and how they use their resources effectively for the next for 4 or 5 decades. But anyways, besides being the co-author, I'm also the publisher of the book in my capacity as the founder and the managing director of New Age Trade, which is a division of IndianFolk.com. And New Age Trade is into the book publishing in the humanities, business, and the technology streams. And we hope this book, Top 7, will be immensely helpful to the young students and the researchers and also casual readers, as I mentioned, who are interested in the economic history of the 7 nations, US, UK, China, India, France, Germany, and Japan. And but I strongly believe that there's a different value add to the book readers if they have this book on the shelves, as I think it is the first book that covers these 7 nations methodically for the last 250 years from the standpoint of the economic history. So that said, I think let's just do an official online release of the book by sort of reading the book and showing the book onto the our cameras. All right. So thank you so much, to my co-authors and also the viewers for being part of this release. And to ensure that the book has a wider outreach, we are taking online orders starting today. And you will get a 50% discount off of the list price of the book for a limited period of time, which is until the end of March. Thus, the book is available only for rupees 599 from now until the end of March. And you may follow the instructions in the description section of the video to place the order, and you'll get a copy by the end of March. So thank you so much to all the viewers for watching this video, and also my co-authors of the book for coming together during this difficult times, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, for this book release online. And I think we're done with this session, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you all.